It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Namaste and welcome to the Divas That Care Network. I'm your host, Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you're listening to Above the Ground podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, our network is going into its 16th year and is listened to in over 30 countries. I would like to personally thank you for giving me the gift of your time. As always, it is my honor to hold space with you. And I'd like to follow up with this nutrition episode from the last one where we talked about the commitment to the incredible edible egg. And essentially the idea of making that sacrifice, which for me was based on the Lenten season, and the idea of, sacrificing something important. And with the paleo diet, meat is definitely a staple, unfortunately or fortunately. And so before we dive into that, I just want to make a little mention of the different background. And that will come into play for the conversation today quite a bit, actually. So essentially, new studio space, and we will probably have a varying background once I get everything situated. But I have moved, and so this will be part of the new setup. So I'm coming to you from my mat today, and just thank you for joining me there, and I hope that you enjoy. So with that in mind, as I'm sure most people who have gone through a move are aware, it can be very, very stressful. Routines are thrown off, priorities shift and become immediate, right? Pending the moving date, the moving truck, all the things that you need to that come with it, right? The packing, the unpacking, the finding things before you've settled in. So it's a blessing, and it's also part of a process, a purging process for many people. And so from this new space, which I'm very, very grateful for and happy to be in, the diet factor, the routine factor really plays a massive role when you are going through other stresses. We'll say, imposed, and I don't mean imposed in a negative way, but life happens, right? Like things that come out of nowhere or opportunities that come up that are too good to pass up, right? So it doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing. But when your routine gets a monkey wrench thrown into it, your diet generally will shift. The staples that you cling to will move away from you, or you may find yourself responding to your body's needs in a very, very different way. And I think a lot of people can relate to that when it comes to comfort foods. And so what are your typical comfort foods? Junk food, right? Like your fried chicken, your mashed potatoes, your potato chips. And I definitely, during this moving process, sat down and ate a whole bag of potato chips. And I had to be okay with that, right? So leave the Lucky Charms, keep the potato chips. But again, it's a matter of listening to your body, having the discipline, and knowing that in times of stress, it's better to stay in alignment with the overall goals and have your cheats, right? It's never a great idea to eat an entire bag of potato chips, let's be honest. Even if it's a smaller than large size bag. So you have to meet yourself halfway in times of stress. And I think that for my body, when I get stressed out, I generally tend towards, I'm less of a sweet tooth, even though chocolate is definitely one of my comfort foods. Thank God cacao is actually, the right chocolate, right? The dark chocolate with the high cocoa content generally is considered an antioxidant and has health benefits. So I'm gonna stick with that. I hope you guys will join me with that as well. When it comes to those cheats, right? So keeping in alignment with your dietary plan. I'm not even gonna say restrictions, but your dietary plan. So even with the move and the lack of consistency and routine for the past couple weeks, I think it's a matter of acknowledging. So again, for me, I have less of a sweet tooth, especially when I get stressed. I go for salt and fat, hence the mighty potato chip. So I know a lot of people will go to sugar, and they'll go to donuts or funnel cake, like that fatty, greasy, doughy kind of comfort food, and there's a place for that, right? Like you need to, like the night that I ate the potato chips, it was like, you know what? I am you start to hit a wall as you go through processes in life. And if you feel like you need to eat the potato chip in that moment, then you do that. What you don't do is, as someone who's committed to, the paleo lifestyle, I didn't go eat pasta. And I think that is where, this idea of, I had a whole episode, and I encourage you to go back and look at it, where, I love my mom dearly. And I said, we had a conversation about, maybe don't just eat the cake. Maybe that one time is going to be a sliding scale, and the discipline that it takes. And there is an element of that. I don't want to contradict that, because I do believe in that. And that's why I'm saying there has to be balance. So if you're going to have that moment of submission, or that moment of giving into the temptation, if you will, try to keep it in alignment with the higher overall trajectory of your goals. And so again, it's the not caving in and getting the pasta, as much as you may want the pasta in my situation. And even as I noticed, as I went through this period of not eating meat, my body, and with the stress levels kind of increasing, my body was definitely craving more protein. And so there were a couple nights where I went and I ate fish, which, when you're talking about Lent, fish is fish. I don't know why it's not technically considered a meat, but you're not supposed to eat meat on Fridays during Lent, for anyone who does not know that. And so to that end, you're allowed to eat fish. Like, so a lot of, I'll say, holy congregations will have fish fries on Fridays, and it's like a celebration, and people don't eat meat on Fridays. And so, and I'm sure it's not just a Catholic religion. I just only speak to that I'm aware of. So with that in mind, I have had a little more fish than I was having previously, just because I felt like my body needed the protein. But again, I tried to keep that kind of fine line, even though I really didn't want to go there. I will say it's been going relatively well, eating mostly eggs for protein, but there have been a lot of protein less meals, or I won't even call them necessarily meals, because again, when you're moving and you're packing and you're doing all the things, you kind of just go to whatever you can grab. And thankfully that was still in alignment and relatively healthy. But also, it's a matter of having those go-tos in your refrigerator, in your pantry, the things that are quick and easy. For me, a lot of times it's a nice guacamole and grain-free chips, if I know that I'm just not going to be able to. And there you go with your salt and your carbs and your fat. So it's not the healthiest, but again, at least it is a healthy fat from the avocados. At least it is, a grain-free chip and not a Tostito. And no shade on Tostitos. They are delicious for people who can and enjoy corn. But it's that kind of keeping things so that when you hit a wall, when you're too tired to, let's say, come home at 9 o'clock at night and cook something, right? Because we all get into those places, whether it's work, whether it's taking care of your family, whether it is, even just travel, whatever the reason is. Sometimes you come home and you need to crash, and you don't want to crash out your nutrition by having no options and then winding up eating a bag of potato chips. So, to that end, have different options that are easy and quick to go to for you in times of stress. And at life, it's nice to be able, when you start to modify and make dietary changes, or you start to recognize what foods serve your body and what foods don't serve your body, to start to, let's say, streamline your shopping list and get it to a place where you have some of the same or varying, similar things that come together for you during the week when you go to your refrigerator, or when you go to your stove and you're getting ready to make something. And one of the things I will say, so this was one of my favorite meals that I've been making. throughout this period when I have the time. I have two favorites. I'm going to share them with you. And not to say that they are, the end all be all, but I was always a very big fan. I'm not a big fan of, like the whole of like the fried kind of idea of Chinese food, air quotes for those of you that are listening and not watching. It's just never been like a top choice of mine. But what I do love is fried rice. And obviously on the paleo lifestyle, you can't have fried rice. So what has been a big staple for me that I have been really, really enjoying, and even when I did order it, it was always like protein less and it would just be extra eggs because I just love the eggs in it. So now I've been making a cauliflower rice with, peas and carrots and some chopped shallot and cauliflower rice and a bunch of eggs. And sometimes I'll even add egg whites for a little bit of extra protein in there. And it's quick and it's easy. And I use avocado oil, and you can use, whatever oil you like. And I use a lot of coconut aminos, which is a paleo, and also I will say healthier alternative than the soy sauce for those of you who are not, or off, I'll say off the legumes or off soy in general, because I know that soy can be, and not only inflammation trigger, but it has some links to cancer as well. So soy is something that I've stayed away from long before I went paleo. So that's one. So it's very, very good. It's super quick. It's super easy to make. It's delicious. It's filling, and it's all vegetables and protein at the end of the day with healthy fat and avocado oil. So there's one little go-to, easy, quick whip up. Even if you're tired, you can make that happen. The hardest thing to do is chop the shallot at the end of the day. And I buy the frozen organic peas and carrots and pre-riced cauliflower so that it is that much easier. And that's another thing that I'll say when it comes to times of stress in life, which no one gets out of here without them, right? Like they're part of life. Make it easy. Is it a little bit cheaper? Is it a little bit less processed to buy the head of cauliflower and chop it up? Absolutely. That being said, meet yourself where you are. And I will tell you, this is, and I will throw shade on myself for this, but I've seen myself throw away a completely whole cucumber that I never got around to chopping up. And it's bothersome to me because it's wasteful, right? And in addition to that, I know that if I go to the store and I buy the pre-cut cucumber and I sit and I have my guacamole, I'm going to grab it and eat it over or with the cassava chips because it's there and it's done. Now, is it adding plastic waste because it's cut up and prepackaged? Yes, it is. So there's always going to be like a reason why not. But at the end of the day, when it comes to your health, and I'm not saying that you should always buy the prepackaged stuff, but I am saying at the end of the day, if it comes down to you walking into your house exhausted and you looking at a head of cauliflower in your refrigerator, thinking about rinsing it, chopping it, and going through that process and then cooking, and then you don't eat it and you grab the bag of potato chips instead, then give yourself a break and buy the frozen, right? It's okay, right? Like give yourself some grace with that. And I think that that's so important is to know yourself, know that the me I want to be has all the time in the world to cut up the cucumber, and the me that I am, and especially the past few weeks, needs the package of pre-cut cucumber, or she will eat the bag of cassava chips. And admitting that to yourself and knowing that about yourself and letting it be okay. And sometimes there are times where you not only do you cut the cucumber, but you peel the cucumber and you're very proud of yourself. And in those moments, take the win. And so I'm not telling you to always get the easy thing or the pre-done thing, but I am saying that especially in times of change or stress or shifts in your life, it's okay to buy frozen. It's okay. It's all right. And forgive yourself for that and let it be okay. If it gets you to that stove instead of the cutting board and you think you'll actually move through it because you're exhausted and you're tired and you're, run ragged, then just give yourself that grace, please, 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 please. So the other thing that I will say I have found to be quite delicious, and so there's a caveat to this little fun recipe, and the caveat is there's an element, and I believe it's in Ayurveda, that suggests that eating eggs with fruit is actually counterproductive, or you could even say that it's not simply Ayurveda, but a lot of nutritionists will say that the way the body processes protein versus carbohydrates, such as a fruit, is different. So they always say protein in vegetables, fruit and vegetables, never protein in fruit, or never protein in carbs, which there goes the sandwich, which I know I've mentioned before in passing, but it's a little bit relevant here because I'm breaking that rule because it just tastes very delicious. So I have found, and I think I mentioned them the last time as we are playing catch up from the eggs are the incredible edible egg and the giving up of meat for the month of Lent. And I found these awesome egg white wraps that are just a lifesaver, because if you've been on the grain-free wrap wagon, there are many attempts at wraps that are grain-free that hold together. Some attempts have some success and other attempts just fail somewhat miserably. And the wraps kind of crack and crumble, and they're basically, they're wishful thinking wraps is what I will call them. And I will not name names or brands, but it's always been a struggle to kind of find that, obviously you can have a lovely corn tortilla, just like you can have a lovely corn tostito, but we're talking about grain-free, essentially, wraps as well. So coming from a grain-free place, the brand is Egg Life for anyone who's so inspired. And I think they have about 12 grams of protein per wrap, if you will. And so they're egg whites. So you're eliminating the cholesterol concern, right? The ones that I bought are like everything flavored. They have a little bit of like garlic onion tang to them. And they hold up significantly well to the fajita burrito style wrapping. So to that end, thinking about ways that I could dress it up a little bit, because they're so, I don't even want to call them bland because they taste very, very good, but they're nondescript. I'm going to call them nondescript. You could take them in any manner of trajectories when it comes to what kind of flavor profile that you're thinking of. And so one of the ones that I found really delicious is, and for those of you who are vegan or vegetarian, I'm sure you're familiar with jackfruit. For those of you who are not, jackfruit is a fruit, but it has kind of like that seitan bready kind of stringy texture about it. And so it goes very, very well with savory dishes as like a meat substitute. Now, granted, it is not a protein substitute. It is just a flavorful, well, however you decide to flavor it. It doesn't hold a lot of flavor on its own, but it's a way to trick your body into thinking that you're getting meat. Now, again, it does not have the protein that meat has, but it is, a relatively healthy meat alternative. So because you're getting your protein in the egg white wrap, I found that frying up some jackfruit, that the one that I get is pre-seasoned. So it kind of has that like slow cooked pork or beef seasoned vibe to it, which obviously it's neither of those things, but it's like mushroom bacon. It's not bacon. There's no way it's ever going to be bacon. It tries very hard to be bacon, and in a pinch, it'll do the trick, but it is not bacon, and nor is jackfruit pulled pork in any capacity. But taking the jackfruit, adding some cabbage slaw, or I even brought like broccoli slaw pre-done, adding some, I believe it's a Primal Kitchen queso. So again, it's a paleo style, queso dip. So no queso in sight, but it's got a really nice flavor to it. And wrapping all that up in a delicious Egg Life wrap. And I'll tell you, man, it is satisfying, tasty, delicious, filling, and super easy. It takes about, I think, 8 minutes max to cook up the stir fry, and then you're just throwing it in a wrap. So when you come home again and you're exhausted and you're starving and you need that protein pack, which, you don't feel like chopping a cauliflower, then it's a really, really great little pulled together option for people. So you have to, when you start to play around with your diet, you have to get a little bit creative, and you have to be able to experiment and try new things, and add different flavor layers that you can to the foods that you generally eat, because that's how you're going to find things that resonate with you, and then you can start to increase your different meal plans for the week, or the dinners that that you like. And so you can come home and kind of look forward to eating, and knowing that it's not going to be this massive chore, or this, like, oh, I just don't feel like it. Oh, I can't bring it, like the I can't be bothered kind of vibe, right? So making sure that whatever it is that you are going to eat, that it's something that inspires you to make it. That's something that you want, right? And even in a restricted diet or an eliminating diet, I had a conversation with a friend of mine where we talked about it being sustainable. And I've talked about keto in the past, and we were talking about that. And I didn't find keto sustainable for myself, but I know that people do. And and I feel as though paleo for me has always been relatively sustainable. And yes, it takes discipline, it takes effort. And I've been to a couple restaurants recently where giving up meat in addition to all of that, it's like there's two things I can eat on the menu, and I have to modify both of them, and one of them's a salad, right? Like so I'm not saying it's not without, and you're going to be the annoying person at dinner. So just wrap your mind around that and come to terms and come to peace with it. But at the same time, you are your own advocate when it comes to your health and your well-being. And you have to be able to know what serves your body and what doesn't. So when we talk about, what serves eggs, my body doesn't have any negative response that I've ever experienced to eggs. They've been a great protein source. They've kept me going. My protein powder, which is a vegan protein powder, made mainly seed based, with I believe it's a legume, but there are some paleo acceptable floating legumes, e.g. peas and green beans. So I believe it is a pea protein base as well. But there are ways to get your needs met, and to do so with some flavor and even some fun. So, but you have to want it, and you have to pay attention to your body, and you have to kind of get yourself to a place where you're able to not only realize what your body wants and needs, but also be able to get excited by coming up with different options that you actually enjoy eating. And it's a Pinterest hole, right? Like there are so many recipes, there are so many options. We are so blessed to live in, where I am in a first world, right? Quote unquote, again, just for the idea of that we have so many different options when we go to a grocery store. We're very blessed in that way. And so being able to, instead of taking that for granted, being able to be grateful for that and use that to your advantage for whatever it is that serves you, your body, and your family. That's going to be the dedication, the yoga, if you will, for your nutrition, right? That mindfulness, that practice of taking care of your body through understanding what it wants. And I do believe for me that in times of stress, my body does crave carbs and fat. And I will say that the paleo is going to be, it's a lower carb diet. It's not a no carb diet. It's a selective carb diet. So I know that for me, I do start to crave the carbohydrates when I get stressed. And so if I need them, I will eat the bag of potato chips, and I will allow my body, and they're avocado oil, air quotes again, healthy potato chips, right? So making those choices to try to be mindful. If you're going to be bad, be good, bad, right? And just keeping that kind of eye on the horizon, if you will, keeping the rudder moving straight forward towards your ultimate goal. But if a wave pops up here and there, just kind of moving around it, but staying true to your course. And I think that is so important. And I want to talk a little bit more about the protein aspect of it, as we know protein is integral, especially for women, especially for as you age. Once you're over 40, once you're over 40, the muscle breakdown, it's a thing, it happens. And we need to start to counteract that. So a slightly higher protein intake is positive, right? Making sure that you're getting some element of protein with each meal is positive. And like I said, there were some nights during the past few weeks with the move that I definitely had less protein than my body's used to. And I think that's probably part of the reason why I started craving it and going towards the fish a little bit more, because it really was something that I felt I needed to, let's use the word survive. As much as that sounds dire, it wasn't that dire, but my body was craving it and was asking for it. And so I supplied. So I think that learning to listen to your body is paramount, first of all. Second of all, knowing the changing needs of your body, like our 20-year-old bodies and our 40-year-old bodies don't need the same things. And certainly the abuse we give to our 20-year-old bodies, our 40-year-old bodies will definitely revolt against. So that element of ensuring that you are adapting to the needs of your body in every moment, especially as those needs change. So a good rule of thumb, and it's just a very generic, because protein is, there's too high protein, and when that happens, essentially it stores fat. It stores fat, which was not what you want either. So if you're getting too much protein, it can work against you. So you really want it's a balance. And you can go on and look at protein calculators based on, based on your weight, based on your age, based on whether you're male or female. Again, no gender, simply for the body composition aspect of it. And then, your level of activity. So if you're lifting weights and you're working out and you're a very active person, you're going to need a little bit more protein. But a nice rule of thumb, if you're getting into that over 40 area or you're a little bit more active, is about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So, and I don't like Google it, look it up yourself. But that's a nice way to kind of think about it. And then the high end of that is once you start to go towards 2 grams, then you're getting into probably a little bit of a troublesome area where you may wind up over proteining yourself, if that's a thing. And in that way, you will wind up working against yourself, and it will turn to fat on you, which is like the last thing that we want, right? So that's kind of the idea behind the protein intake, and to vary your proteins, right? So for me, it's the protein powder, and then it's eggs all day long, or a nice piece of fish at dinner. And we all know our protein sources are nuts, seeds, eggs, legumes for those who can consume legumes, fish, obviously. And then you have your animal proteins, like your lean animal proteins. But again, bear in mind that a lot of times there's a correlation between a lot of animal protein, especially, your red meats, right? Those heavier proteins that have a significant impact on the cholesterol as well. And too much protein, not only turning to fat, but also can affect your kidneys. So there's that's why I don't like to get into the, requirements, air quotes again, for those of you that have special circumstances or have, issues with, your health in other ways, right? Everyone's health is different. We are all special snowflakes, and there is no right answer or no one size fits all way to go about diet nutrition. It is tailored specifically to you, what your body needs, and that changes over time. And with the development of life and activity level and, onset of, for me, it was not immune condition. For others that I know, it could be diabetes, whatever it is that comes into play for you as you gracefully age, taking that all into account and being able to roll with the punches. And always, again, be mindful of keeping your eye on the horizon, keeping the rudder moving towards that goal, whether it's weight loss, whether it's, extra energy, whether it's, any goal that you have, just basic overall health, feeling good, right? Whatever the goal is for you, making sure that you are targeting your cheats and your surrenders to the potato chip in a way that doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, which in my case, for example, there was a delicious pasta dish on a menu that I saw recently, and it was my favorite, as I am half Italian. It was a pappardelle, and my goodness gracious, did I just want to order and eat the entirety of that dish with the stress levels that I've had, and loving being a pasta lover that I am. So I did not, and I got a delicious stuffed acorn squash instead, and it was lovely. So those are the kinds of decisions that you want to kind of keep your mind on, keep your eye on the prize. And then, if you're really driving the struggle bus, go ahead and eat the potato chip and not the pasta. And again, that is a very me specific analogy, but I hope that you know what I mean when I say that, because it will be different for you. But there's a way to allow yourself to experience what your body needs and give yourself what your body needs, the salt, the fat, whatever it might be, and still do it in alignment with your overall goals and your overall health and well-being. And, don't maybe eat all the potato chips a couple nights in a row. That may not be your best choice either. So with all of that in mind, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you for sharing your space with me, and ask that you please feel free to share the same with your loved ones. For more goodness, follow me on all the socials at Above the Ground Podcast, and visit my website, airsaboveyoga.com. As always, please don't forget to check out my other episodes and all of my amazing sisters at the Divas That Care Network. You can find us on Spotify, Odyssey, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else that you might feel guided. Again, my name is Gia-Raquel Rose, owner of Airs Above Yoga, and you are listening to Above the Ground Podcast, where every day is a good one.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.